Tim K here, host of the Veterans Project podcast, founder of the Veterans Project, and the Caregiver Project as well. Over the past 18 years, our incredible men and women have been fighting a seemingly never-ending war, thousands of miles from home. Although we are certainly taking care of business overseas and ridding this world of some sinister, evil men, this is not without a cost. Some of those costs are seen as in the loss of life and limb, while others are not as visible but still sacrificial nonetheless. PTSD, battle-related stress, sleeping disorders, and traumatic brain injury. Some of you out there know all too well what I'm talking about. Our current medical system's answer is all too often found in the form of prescription opioids, which really just mask the problem without getting to the root. You know what I'm talking about. Fear no more, though. Mayday Organics, founded by a former hard-charging recon Marine, is here with the top-of-the-line CBD products, which are all third-party tested to ensure the most stringent of standards are met. With oils, topicals, soft gels, and even pet treats for your little furry friends, Mayday Organics is here to help. Check them out at maydayorganics.com. That's maydayorganics.com. Check it out. A few years back, I journeyed to Austin, Texas to cover a well-known veteran by the name of Donny O'Malley, who served as a captain in the United States Marine Corps. And when I did, it became one of the more controversial projects I committed the Veterans Project to. To be totally honest, this passion project of ours was never really meant to lean any one way or cover any certain heavy air quotes type of veteran. It was always built on the relentless pursuit of discovering the individuals in our ranks and covering veterans from all walks of life. To those followers who deem this a strange or questionable direction for the project, it truly wasn't. It wasn't a departure from the mission. In fact, I would say that it was a sincere display of what I've always thought the project would become. When I met Donny on his Silky's hike in Austin to photograph him, I legitimately did my best to remain open-minded, and when I met him, he admittedly dismantled the stereotype of the brash, vulgar Marine Corps frat boy president idea I had of him. He was polite, genuine, and extremely honest in his approach to his whole team. He made me feel especially welcome, like a VP of sorts, and gave me every bit of access I needed in order to properly capture his mission with Irreverent Warriors and Vet TV. I'll never forget that. And the community I saw surrounding this movement was massive. They were proud to be there at the hike, and proud to once again be a part of a united front that they lost when they left the military. Donny, whatever your opinion is of the man, had created a community that's emboldened by his candid approach to bringing veterans together. That's a fact that can't be argued. As vets, we desperately need camaraderie. And if this issue of suicide that has become so prevalent is going to become an afterthought in the annals of our legacy pieces, we need more initiatives like Donny's to secure that future. I could speak on this subject for the whole episode, but I think you'd rather hear him speak for himself. Here he is, the one and only Donny O'Malley.
The Veterans Project is a comprehensive essay capturing the legacies of our warfighters, caregivers, and civilians who have stepped forward in defense of our patriotic principles in an effort to capture their stories and to never forget the staggering sacrifices of our nation's finest. This is the Veterans Project podcast, where our legacies are the mission. Here's your host, Tim K.
Okay, I guess like we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Doing it.
So I just want to start this podcast off by saying if there are any children listening younger than the age of 36.
I was going to say like 20.
Yeah. Turn, pause it, and then bring your parents in and let them listen too.
Yes.
So welcome to Veterans Project Podcast. My name is Tim K. I'm your host. We've got Donny O'Malley here. We're sitting in the Vet TV studios. I drove all the way for you.
I appreciate you every day.
Yeah. Okay, I drove out for like 10 other guys too, but...
Yeah. I heard you were banging Rudy right before you got here.
Oh, my gosh.
Got me all jealous.
He's beautiful.
I know. It's
unfair. Genetics,
he's
too.
like 47?
Yeah, 47.
Oh,
So, Donny O'Malley, obviously United States Marine Corps officer, led troops into action. I know you're gonna laugh at everything I say, so
I don't know about lead.
Lead.
Followed him.
Was it? You poor suckers, get out there. But he was a lieutenant who led his troops into Battle of Afghanistan, right?
Battlefield Afghanistan.
Battlefield Afghanistan. How many tours did you do again, Donny?
Only one to Afghanistan. My other was to Southeast Asia.
Okay. So Donny now has this incredible creation on top of, what you started with Irreverent Warriors and the Silky Hikes, which I want to definitely get to because those are important as well. But Vet TV here, we're live in studio. Donny, what brought you here, man? What was the I know this is like a very vague question.
Loaded.
Yeah, and by the way, I forgot batteries to start the show, so I had to go over to Lowe's. So that shows you how amateur hour this creation is right now.
But it worked out for the better because the caffeine finally hit me.
Yeah.
And now I'm gonna say some shit.
Oh man,
Woo!
We're in for it now. I'm gonna be checking your levels the whole time. Like,
yeah.
By the end, you're gonna be hanging from the ceiling. So Donny, what led to you down this path, man? From the young age, did you have a desire to do what you're doing now specifically, or being an artist, or was that not the path early on?
Yes. So the desire early on, at 19 years old, was actually very specifically to create my own version of Happy Madison Productions.
Okay.
After I had learned that Adam Sandler, my favorite actor at the time, had created a company where he staffed it with all of his friends and his family, and they made people laugh together, I was like, what? How could I live a life that would be more fun and valuable than that? And the answer was I couldn't. So that's what I'm going to
do. We'll get close at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I made that decision at 19 that I would do that. But I wanted to do 10 years in the Marine Corps first. And then I planned on being a teacher and a coach. And then when I retired from that, that was when I would pursue my dream of creating this production company that made comedy. But my Marine Corps dream was cut short because I'm weak and I break easy and I was medically retired. And so I was retired. So I didn't have to follow the conservative route of being a teacher and a coach first, which I was raised by very conservative parents, mom being a teacher and my dad being a doctor, a Navy doctor.
Wow.
He went from Marine grunt to Navy doctor. So very conservative, government jobs, public servants. And
definitely not in the mold of wanting their son to create a production company. Which yeah.
My dad actually said this to me, so I went to. You're gonna love this actually because you majored in
digital media. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So when I was in college, I wanted to change my major to TV, film, and new media.
Okay.
And at San Diego State, and my dad, he was asking questions. What's the plan? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that after college? Because I only wanted to do it for a few years until I joined the Marine Corps. And at the end of my explaining like what I wanted to do in TV and film, he says, "Okay, you got your dreams. That's fine. I don't want to put down your dreams, but I will tell you, I am not paying for you to go to college so that you can graduate and then become some starving fucking artist. So you better come up with a more solid plan of gainful employment if you're going to pursue your dreams."
Classic dad bringing it back down.
Classic dad. And by
dad.
the way, my dad is still talking to me and our company leadership like that today.
Bro, that's a win though that he's like leading things right now. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Like to come full circle back to that and like to have him actually like as the leader of like helping you do this.
Yeah.
which is incredible.
It's unbelievable. I'm so unbelievably grateful for my parents. It's nuts.
So what in your Marine Corps time really as the structure of that, obviously you always kind of had this dream. What helped push you within your Marine Corps time to start this? And how did it help you in what you're doing now? I mean, I see this board behind you and this kind of looks like something an officer would put together.
I had nothing to do with this.
Oh, you didn't do this?
No,
okay.
This is two of our writers, Jessica Mandala and Christopher Michael.
Oh, cool. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. This is them. They're writing a show about a Navy corpsman called Devil Docs.
Gotcha.
Scrubs meets Shameless.
Okay, gotcha. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, but I'm guessing that they kind of pulled off of the way that you've started things off and really wanted to drive into it, or is this just the kind of people that you surround yourself with that are, you know, kind of in this organizational route where they feel comfortable doing this stuff already, or?
I think this comes out of a general desire within our company to be great. We want to consistently make things that Netflix is begging for, because we're putting it on our platform and Netflix is watching it. They're like, hey, we'll give you $200,000 for that for 2 years. And now we have to balance, you know, do we give it to Netflix and make our audience like wonder, hey, should we go watch it on Netflix or watch it on TV and accept that we might lose some subscribers, but we get $200,000 in the business?
Yeah.
Like those are the decisions that I want to get to. So, not to mention anybody who comes into the film, the entertainment industry, with a strong desire to succeed, you need exceptional work ethic and exceptional craftsmanship.
Right.
And that craftsmanship includes organization and studying what the greats do. And this is what the greats do. They have to be very organized about their characters and their plots and their through lines and the conflict and so on. And so this is them just trying to be great.
Yeah.
And I like to think that I have enough talent to set the example.
Yeah.
But my greatest talent is surrounding myself with more talented people.
Yeah.
Who then can look at the example and then think, "Ooh, I can do better," and then they do better.
That's awesome.
Than me.
Well, that's awesome, and that's something I found in So I just did a project on Evan Hafer, founder of Black Rifle Coffee.
Oh God, scared to death of him. I love you, Evan.
He frightened me too.
Right?
Yeah.
Guys, he's a beast, man.
He would walk around and he'd be like, you know, just walk into random offices and be like, "You're fired." And then just like walk out like he's completely joking, but it like looked so serious. Like you're like, oh my gosh, this would be so frightening. and you like everybody like stays like packed in the Black Rifle offices and they have their dogs and everything. So you just randomly like grab people's weapons and make sure they were clean. And I was like, this is totally their culture. Yeah. Like,
dude, Evan has the demeanor of like the best battalion commander I ever worked with. That's his demeanor as a man and as a business leader, which is incredible.
Well, he's fascinating. I mean, he was great on the project, but that kind of reminded me of what he would say as far as like, he'd always say, "I'm not a good businessman," but I said, which is freaking ridiculous.
He's full of shit. F you, Evan. F you.
He doesn't, I don't even.
Just kidding.
I apologize for him.
Sorry.
And he does too. But he would surround himself with, you know, better innovators, you know, like Tom Davin.
I was just going to say Tom Davin.
Tom is like a genius.
I was like, we were like dreaming one day because Tom Davin like advised us for like a quick minute.
Right.
And we're just like dreaming, oh my God, can you imagine if we hired Tom Davin? And then we find out he's working for Black Rifle. We're like, you guys.
Of course
goddamn
they did, yeah.
All-star cast over there.
Dude, I know. And it's so funny. So for just to let people know who Tom Davin is like he was the CEO of 511. He turned around Taco Bell. He like turned around Panda Express, like brought them to where they are now. Yeah. Made all these incredible movements within all these different companies, you know, a Marine Corps officer, I believe.
He was a recon officer. Infantry recon officer.
Infantry recon officer. Just a very driven guy. And honestly, too, one of the kindest guys that I've met.
Oh, God, I love him so much.
He sat in the room and I remember listening to questions like for hours and you know, just sat there and like listened and was honestly like very active in his listening. And you see that common thread with leadership. Like you in the Corps know how important it is to be listening to your men. The surrounding of yourself with these smarter individuals, you know, who can really take your company to the next level is so smart. And what you're doing with Vet TV, which I want to get to, of course, what you're doing with Vet TV and surrounding yourself with that is that same model, you know, where you're bringing in these guys who are not only artistic, but organized, doing smart things like this, structuring a business, right? Getting a better, you said to me before the show, I'm not very good at the presidential stuff, at being a businessman. That's not my thing. So you bring in somebody else that can do that a little better than you, maybe a lot better than you.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. I've known Donny for a little while now. A lot. But, just like coming in and doing that job, that you need that. So how much of this has been, modeled off of your career in the Corps and seeing like that, surrounding yourself with great men?
Sorry to let you down, but I don't know if it's that much, because I don't think I was a very good leader in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of this business, I don't think I was a very good leader.
So there has been an adaptive growth. Where you started
totally.
this, yeah.
It's constant learning through failure, and I think many entrepreneurs would probably agree that which has made them successful, and those who have become successful and who have stood out above the crowd, are those who make more decisions than everyone else. They're constantly making decisions, and a really high percentage of those are wrong. But you keep making decisions, and through AAR, after action reports and self-assessment and debriefs and shit, you're learning and listening and having everyone tell you how wrong that was. Mm-hmm. It's like, as long as you don't stop, and as long as you're not a complete, just naive moron, you're going to learn.
Right.
You just keep pushing and keep making decisions, keep making mistakes, keep learning. And then ideally at some point, the ratio of poor decisions to decisions goes down. I don't know if that ratio has gone down for me yet. But I think in an entrepreneur's career, it should go down,
right?
Especially as I think one of the most important things to do is to keep hiring people who are better than you and smarter than you and are hopefully as driven as you, and through that, then your decisions become hiring decisions. Your biggest decisions become hiring, and. So anyways, I like to think that all of us learn through more decisions and failure, which goes back to Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
Right.
You got to make decisions faster than your enemy.
And
yeah.
That's good. So talk a little bit about the model of Vet TV and what you're doing specifically, because I probably should have started with that question, but we'll lead into that. What are you doing with Vet TV specifically? What are your goals with it? And talk about the model a little bit because you got a bunch of, you're going to have a bunch of civilians listening who, haven't heard, or have heard, but they want to hear more about it.
Okay. So our mission is to recreate, parody, and celebrate the military experience through film and television. We want to create a sense of nostalgia in the audience and help them remember the best parts of the military experience. Because for lots of us, the military experience is the most memorable part of our entire lives. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of us are like the guys still wearing their varsity Letterman's jackets, like back when we went to the state championships. By the way, I'm playing a character right now. I never went to the state championships. Okay. But the guys who did would say that.
Right, yeah.
And they would talk about the state championships, through their 40s or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of veterans are.
Yeah.
And so it's like knowing that we can go back to that experience. We can recreate it in a way that highlights the best parts. And we can make you laugh because I don't know many of us who will willingly talk through the worst parts of our experience.
Right.
We talk through the best parts of our experience. The fun times we had, the crazy shit we did in the barracks, the crazy shit that went on in combat, dating, balls and celebrations.
Right.
Like, we talk about the good times. Vet TV exists to recreate the good times.
That's awesome.
Hollywood, for some reason, I don't know what their fucking issue is, but they think that people want to see the tragedy. It's like, no.
Immersed in PTSD is like the whole model. Like, everything is PTSD.
I think I think a part of it is a storyteller's, a filmmaker's desire to show the world what tragedy we go through.
Right.
So they got that going on for them.
Yeah.
We'll show the world how much fun we had and how awesome it was being on the front lines of the most powerful military in the world, decimating our enemies.
Mm-hmm.
That excites the shit out of me and everyone I've ever known who's experienced that.
Who's honest, for sure.
Yeah. So talking about the tragedy, maybe that's important sometimes, but I don't like to dwell on it.
Yeah.
I like to dwell on the good times, and then by encouraging people to talk about the good times through recreating it on film and television, some of those dark times and the pain that they've experienced is gonna come out.
Right.
But if we've learned anything from the old generations of World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the dark times, the bad memories are not coming out on their own. They're keeping that deep down to the bottom until they blow their own brains out, because blowing the brains out sounds better than the idea of reliving those experiences. So we'll relive the happy experiences. It will lead to conversation about the bad experiences. It will lead to connection between veterans as they text each other after they watch an episode. Bro, you remember that time we did that thing? Vet TV just did an episode, or that time in the barracks.
Yeah.
When we threw that party, when we had those girls over.
Yeah.
Or you remember that piss test that you almost popped on? You know,
yeah.
all these things that we talk about,
Mm-hmm.
that we're excited to talk about and we laugh about, we'll recreate it in film and television. And that it's ultimately what we want to do is reinforce community.
Yeah.
Community building is what we're doing with, and it started with the nonprofit, and then now we're just taking the same elements, right? What's Irreverent Warriors' mission statement? It's we use humor and camaraderie to bring veterans together.
Right.
Or we bring veterans together with humor and camaraderie. Just bringing together community. We're the digital half of that, and we're able to promote community through entertainment.
Yeah. You know, I had a civilian friend who saw your story, who read it, and they were like, "Oh, that's awesome. What's this Vet TV thing?" And she was like, "I'm going to check it out." And I said, "All right, yeah, go softly first." Of course, the first thing she wants to pull up is Night Terror neck brace. There.
Oh God, I love that one.
So yes, you should be celebrating that. So when she pulled it up, I was like, "Oh, you're gonna start with that one." And you know what's so funny, Donnie, is like that I got this impression when I watched it. Of course, I was crying. I was like laughing so hard, but I kind of guiltily laughed at first, and then I was like, okay, this is freaking funny. And then, but I was around a bunch of my military buds, like we were watching it. And some of my former college athlete buddies, and they were laughing. And then we brought her in, and she turned it on. I was like, okay, well, here it is. And she starts watching it, dude. She was crying, laughing so hard. And I was like, man, civilians get this more than we think they do. Like, they definitely get that. And the thing is, man, we talk about this so often. I hear about it on so many podcasts with comedians nowadays. And, I don't know if you watch Dave Chappelle's latest special on Netflix, but
I need to.
He, talks about, the first thing he says is, you want to know who's ruining comedy right now? He's like, all of you are. And he points at the whole audience. He's like, political correctness, you are ruining comedy. All of y'all in this audience right now. And everybody gave him a standing ovation, of course. But political correct, people don't want that, man. They go to comedy to escape, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an escapism. So for even civilians that might not get that particular experience, to them it's like, oh yeah, you guys are crazy, but this is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
She was awoken to that in the moment,
mm-hmm.
and she found a real empathy for us, and oh man, that does suck that you have those night terrors sometimes.
Oh wow, they must have been really hurt at some point to be laughing at that.
They must have some real issues at home.
Yeah.
But, when I see those specials like that, and those, Night Terror neck brace and different, skits that you've done since, it's been very impactful for not only our veteran world, but civilians. How did you realize, when you were showing it to the rest of the world, obviously, that civilians are going to watch it. How do you turn that into something where you find comfort in, showing it to everybody? As far as a overall, arching theme where you're comfortable showing it to civilians, or is it just, I don't care what you think,
I would say a heavy dose of I don't care what you think. Heavy dose of that. But on the other side of that coin, I don't know if I totally understood this in the beginning, but now I'm able to articulate it much better. We, as veterans, leaving military service, coming into the civilian world, we are often misunderstood because civilians have this image of us that comes from the recruiting posters. And it's a powerful, powerful imagery that these recruiting posters and recruiting commercials create in the minds of the American public to get people to join.
Right.
So it's like this imagery is embedded in the minds of the American public, and they don't want to lose that. They like that.
Right.
They like thinking of the American service member like the guy in the poster and in the commercials. They don't like the idea of us making jokes about terrible tragedy. They don't like that.
Right.
Because that betrays the image that exists on the posters.
That's interesting.
So we know this. We know that civilians have a different expectation of us, which is why, and this is what led to the creation of Irreverent Warriors, which is why a lot of veterans will just isolate themselves from civilians. They will separate themselves. They will segregate. They'll create their own divide.
Right.
Because they think they are not going to accept me because they think I'm something else than what I actually am. And so when I think about, because everything that I do built out of a desire to prevent suicide. Right. Initially.
Even the book.
The book.
Yeah.
Right? So the book was just supposed to be comedy. I just want to make people laugh.
Yeah.
But my buddy smoked himself right before publishing.
Right.
So now I'm thinking about suicide, doing research. And, oh, wow, this is a big deal. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because when you're in, you don't give a fuck about veteran suicide.
Right.
You're active duty.
You're not thinking about it. Yeah.
Especially in a victory unit deploying to combat. What are these losers doing killing themselves for, man?
Yeah.
Like, we need guns in the fight. So then after that, I'm awoken to this whole suicide thing. I'm like, oh, wow, I should bring some attention to this issue and talk about prevention. And everything since then has been guided towards that. If my buddy hadn't smoked himself going to publish my book, I don't think I would have started this. I would have gone towards Happy Madison. Yeah. Not the military Happy Madison.
Right.
But because of that pulled me in that direction. I don't know. I don't like to say pulled. I make my own choices. I chose to go in that direction because I knew this is a community that I could add value here. Right. And so I'm looking at all these issues that exist within the veteran community that ultimately lead to suicide. Right. It's all poor mental health. And as I walk it backwards, I'm like, as soon as these guys leave this tight-knit community in the military, guys and girls, they're now in this larger world where they don't feel understood. Right. They don't feel seen, heard, and especially not understood. And it's intimidating. So they ostracize themselves. Just think of how many veterans are like, oh, man, I tried going to college. I couldn't listen to all those little stupid college kids and blah, blah, blah. Like,
dumb liberal professors.
Yeah. So they purposely step out of that. And then they're at work in the workplace, and they're, they feel like they can't relate to anybody at work. Right. And then at home with the family. Sometimes a lot of these poor bastards, they married the wrong chick at 19.
Really?
Yeah. So
that happens.
For whatever reason, it's so annoying. These guys are in households where there's no understanding of them. Right. They still 10 years later, the wife doesn't understand him and accept him for who he is. Got one of my buddies. He's just like, he can't joke around his own wife. And then when he finally gets out of the house, he's like a dog just got out of his cage. Yeah. And then then he's drinking heavy and he's doing what he shouldn't be doing, and it's just like.
Miserable way to live.
It's a way to live, man.
Yeah.
Your family should accept you.
Right.
And if they don't, throw them in the garbage. Yeah.
Whoa. No. This is another show.
Jesus, yeah.
Donny's right.
So it's like this lack of understanding is also a lack of acceptance. Right. Which leads to isolation. Isolation then is the one common denominator. I don't have any data on this. Right. I just know because I just know so many people who've smoked themselves. Right. And I can't say I knew them all that well, but through the Silky's hikes and I'm very involved in our community. Right. So it's just like the numbers, the tally's going up. And the one thing that I've seen in common is that they're all socially isolated before they do it. Yeah. Whether it's for a couple days or a couple months. Yeah. And so it just makes sense. If you can reduce social isolation, you can reduce suicide.
Yeah.
How do you reduce social isolation? You increase acceptance and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So by putting out to the world, this is exactly who we are.
Yeah.
This is exactly what we laugh at. This is the way our brains work sometimes. This is the way we dealt with our experiences in these shows where we do immense research to recreate these worlds, these military worlds, this BAS, this Army admin shop, this Army MPs, recreated accurately. We could if the world sees this is who we are, well, they might not like it at first. They might be rubbed wrong. They might have this different impression. They might come out and say we're doing something bad. But the reality is we will never have a complete integration into American society until we are accepted for exactly who the we are. Veteran television is, in my opinion, leading that charge.
Awesome.
We put out there exactly who we are.
Right.
And some people choose not to like it at first and choose not to accept it. But if you actually care about the veterans like everyone likes to talk about it, then I like to think that if they approach watching our stuff with a curiosity and a desire to understand why are we like that, that will improve acceptance, understanding, reduce social isolation, and reduce suicide.
And the important element here, obviously, is humor.
Mm-hmm.
It's so therapeutic. I mean, I think back to even the simplest things like Robin Williams and like Patch Adams, you know, like in the hospital beds, like making kids laugh. Like that is actually can be physically healing for guys.
Yeah.
You know, it's not only mentally, emotionally healing, but obviously there is a correlation from the mental and the emotional side to physical health.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're doing by making guys laugh is kind of bringing them out of social isolation in a lot of ways and realizing like, hey, I do have a future. Like there are things that I can do beyond this. I can be creative. I can laugh. I can say some of my jokes. You know, maybe they're not accepted and that's okay. That's just what it is. Comedy, you know, is very much nowadays, I feel like under attack, obviously, from the PC crowd and people who aren't, you know, accepting of those things. But you've kind of pioneered the model in this world of putting it out there and saying, hey, I don't care what you think, bro. This is it. This is what I'm going to show. And I'm going to show it regardless of your feelings. Like, you know, and so that element of in therapy and humor, you know, kind of, I think back to that quote where you talked about, you know, back to social isolation, but in the project, you were talking about how veterans who socially isolate themselves, they don't often hurt others.
Mm-hmm.
They hurt themselves
Mm-hmm.
because they join. The whole reason they join, and your quote was very powerful, and a lot of people loved it. But your quote about protecting, you know, protecting the herd, protecting your tribe. That is why veterans join in the first place. So they're only going to self-harm, but they need to be pulled out of social isolation in order to heal themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And your comedy is therapeutic in that way. How important has comedy been to you throughout your life in not only starting this, but, you know, growing up? You come from a big family, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
How important has humor been to you your whole life? Because you do stand-up as well, or you did for a while, and you were really good, actually, and I kind of missed that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think
It's
the last
raw.
time we saw each other, it's very raw. It's funny when you get the guy there that's, like, super serious, and he's next to you, and he's like... And he's like, and you look at him and he's like, this is dark.
Yeah.
But in all reality, like everybody in the crowd thinks it's hilarious. Some may laugh a little differently, but it's true that humor is therapeutic in the moment, you know? How important has that been to you?
I would say I think I experience life differently than most.
Yeah.
I experience everything comedically. The higher the stress, the higher the danger, the higher the intensity or the more serious the moment in general, the more I see it with a sense of humor. And I don't think this is something that I developed because I've had it ever since I was a kid, and it's because of my family.
Yeah.
Coming from this huge Irish Catholic family that is, and I appreciate it more and more as I get older. and as I do this job, and I realize every bit of my comedy comes from my family. Everything.
Everything.
And especially the more I talk to one of my cousins, cousin Chris Williams, and I see and I hear so much of me in him.
Yeah.
When I talk to him and see him. And I'm just like, I'm not doing anything new. I'm nowhere close to the funniest guy in my family. I'm just the one that had the nuts and the drive to bring it onto the screen.
Right.
And to make a living doing it.
Yeah.
But I've been surrounded by unbelievably talented comedians and storytellers my entire life. Come from a family of very good communicators, which I didn't
awesome.
realize that until later on, you know. And no, the family is, you know, it's blue collar,
Right.
Irish Catholic. Yet it's when I listen to them speak, and I listen to some of these fucking veterans speak, I'm like, wow, I was blessed with really good communicators.
Yeah.
And even storytellers. And you know, a lot of my cousins are these big giant dudes with accents so thick it's hard to understand what they're saying. And, you know, they were all big fighters and boxers and stuff. But as soon as they start telling a story, they're acting out 6 different characters in the middle of the story. And they're very animated and very expressive. And I'm seeing it now, and I'm like, that's where I get it from. From all of them.
That's awesome.
So it has always been within me.
Yeah.
And it has always been in second nature. We never thought of it. We never thought of it as like something crazy, you know? Like, we have a lot of funerals.
Yeah.
Way too many,
Yeah.
actually, recently. And at every funeral, we're placing bets on who's the next to die.
I think you had a quote about that in the project. Yeah.
And it's like, and mind you, this is also in a family. I never once, to date, I've asked around. I haven't heard of one instance of abuse in the family,
Right.
Abuse or neglect.
Yeah.
I come from the most loving freaking people
Yeah.
that I could have ever asked for. Truly loving people. Like, nobody grew up and got married and you know, became a workaholic.
Right.
They grew up and they became a dadaholic and a momaholic.
Cool.
Their only desire in life was to raise family.
Yeah.
Every generation after generation, all they want to do is raise a good family. Raise a good family. They, you know, that's why I see these veterans. They got a long work day, and then they're going to the gym, and then they're hanging out with a buddy, and then they're coming home, and on the weekends they're going to hang out with friends and stuff. And it's like, my family never did. No one in the family did that.
No,
It was
mine
just
neither.
like, you go straight home and you go hang out with the family.
Yep.
You have dinner together as a family. Every weekend is a new trip to the park, to the lake, to the museum, to something. That's
Right.
and I'm talking. There was, my great grandparents had 10 kids.
Wow.
All of them had 3. A bunch of them had 5, and then a bunch of them, those kids had 5. It's huge.
Yeah.
All that matters in our family is family. Very few of them pursued careers that became a priority. Very few. They all just took jobs that enabled them to provide for the family. And so within this environment, we have this unbelievably dark humor. And I think part of a personal mission is to show the world that you can have an incredibly dark sense of humor and not be a terrible person, as a lot of people would like to paint us.
Yeah.
And that gets very frustrating when people see my dark humor and they just assume I'm this terrible person.
Yeah. Does that happen a lot?
No, not a lot.
Yeah.
It's just happened enough times that just really rubbed my vagina in just the wrong way, where it still stings.
Yeah.
I mean, and I can't even tell you the last time it happened.
Right.
But it's happened enough times, and for me to know that it is the thing.
Yeah.
And it is frustrating, and so I want to show the world,
Yeah.
that comedy is a coping mechanism for pain, suffering, tragedy, and trauma.
Yeah.
That's what this is. That's why we do it. That's why at my family funerals, as we're literally dripping tears together,
Yeah.
standing in a circle, bunch of, you know, old Irish and Italian guys standing around, someone will make a joke about the dead family member or the next to die. And that laughter pushes us through the tears.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think about, your project, and like you said, there's this kind of misperception in a way when that happens, about you and that dark humor and what that leads to. Whether it's, civilian or a veteran thinking, oh yeah, Donnie, he's not a good dude, or, I don't like that humor or whatever. That perception, when I covered you for the project, I remember going out on the hike in Austin, that Irreverent Warriors silky hike. And what I was struck by so much was your kindness and generosity in the moments, even, simple stuff like, hey, Tim, where you staying, man? You can sleep on the floor up here or whatever, you got a spot. And immediately, I just met you, you didn't know me from Adam. You could have easily just been like, all right, camera guy, get to the back, take some good shots of me walking and, make sure my abs are popping, so, so.
Get those angles right, bro.
If you don't get those angles right, you don't have a project.
Don't publish that book.
Yeah. Hey, we're gonna have to X this project, bro. Come back next year when you're good. But like me as an artist, I'm coming into this circle with different veterans every time, and obviously I'm struck by the humility by most guys, but you were very humble and generous and kind, and it was kind of, I didn't really have a perception of you because I knew all the guys that I dealt with in the past were pretty good dudes. So I kind of knew that was the status quo. But also, there is that perception when you see all that dark humor, you're wondering, all right, who is this guy, So like I was struck in those moments by your kindness. And for those of you that don't know Donnie, he is a good dude, like a very good guy. Fun to be around.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was raised well.
Yeah. That's good. And so those moments for me were really awesome because I got to see you throughout the course of that day and got to see how much people looked up to you along the hike. And, and a lot of people didn't even necessarily know that you had started these things, that you were the one who had led it. I'd be like, oh yeah, Donnie's here. And they'd be like, Donnie? And I was like, yeah, he's the one who started the Silky Sykes. They'd be like, what? Really? But it wasn't about you. You created a culture of coming together, something where you could walk along, look ridiculous, feel ridiculous, and still be accepted. Yes. Yes, absolutely. He did bring it back. So that acceptance was awesome. Now, with the Silky Sykes, was that the goal? Were you trying to increase that community? Was that the whole goal of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. The initial thought, it came from when I was in Wounded Warrior Battalion. And I always have to say I was not hit by enemy fire.
Yeah.
I just, I'm weak little break far too
Mr.
easily.
Glass.
Mr. Glass, man. I'm made of balsa wood. And so while I was in Wounded Warrior Battalion, I noticed that all of the dudes who were combat wounded socially isolated themselves. They segregated themselves. They only hung out with each other and no one else. And then I had a few experiences with these guys with just them in a room laughing hysterically, being themselves.
Yeah.
Like doing wacky shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing them laugh together. It's a specific moment. One dude in a wheelchair, he pushed another guy out of his wheelchair, so he falls back onto his back, and then he jumps, and this guy's got no legs, and he jumps onto his face, and he's humping his face into the ground. But not just like play humping. Like his little stubs on the ground is crushing this guy's face into the floor, and I'm listening to his head thud. And then a couple of the other guys who are, they're missing limbs and eyes and shit. They're holding the guy on the ground who's getting his head smashed, and they're holding his arms down. And he's like, and everyone's like, yeah, fuck his face. Uh-huh. And then everyone just fell to the ground in laughter that, like, nobody could breathe, tears. And I remember seeing in that moment, I was like, that's therapeutic. It's this epiphany I had.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow. And I also thought these guys remind me of me and my buddies.
Yeah.
They just take it next level. And I remember thinking, wow, I really wish I could recreate an environment like this for them again. I've always, I'm coming from my family. My family creates experiences for us. And within these family experiences, we are able to have these incredible times of joy and laughter and love and exuberance that you never forget. Right. We look back our whole lives, all these great things that we had. Every Thanksgiving dinner is an amazing experience. Every Christmas dinner, Easter, family trips, what you name it. So I've been trained by my parents to create amazing experiences where everyone feels really good, feels loved, and there's always nonstop laughter. So
it almost comes in a place of familial connection, like you going
100%,
back to your family.
100%. And I have been doing that for my friends since I was 17. Went through this experience when I was really, really shy and insecure, intimidated, bullied, pushed through that. On the other side, I finally became the person that I wanted to be and that I should be. And since then, I have been creating experiences for my friends. Started with my guys in high school, then in college, joined a fraternity. It's literally my job to create experiences for all these guys.
Yeah.
And then after that, in the working world until I joined the Marine Corps, I'm bringing my friends from high school together with my friends from college, with my new friends who are all personal trainers and teachers, bringing everyone together, having amazing experiences people still talk about to this day. I'm still friends with everybody. So I just took the same thing I've been doing and brought it to the veteran community, recreating those emotions. Because I'm just like, with just some solid thought, you can choose what emotions you want and have those things recreated without a single drug. And that's a powerful thing. We all have the power to do that. The Silkies hike is an example. Every leader, every city has its own leader who does exactly that. They create this event that produces all of these chemicals and all these people that turns into this very memorable experience that pulls people out of depression, that makes them feel good, improves sense of self-worth and value, because now there are other people who are happy to see them. The people they're walking by are clapping, value, right? It all comes down to self-worth. If you higher self-worth, probably less likely to kill yourself. So all of these good things are happening, and then friendships are being made. And all of this is happening through that hike's city leader. The coordinator or coordinators of each hike, they are recreating those experiences. And it just took creating a formula and a process for which I have done my whole life. Not my whole life, since I was 17, but my parents have always done. Putting that into a process and handing that process. I just put it out to the world in a Facebook, in a blog post, actually. And that blog post got around, and it said, this is how to create a Silkies hike. And that was what led to the creation of the Silkies hike, which I then incorporated as a nonprofit in order to manage these hikes across the country and make sure that the mission stayed appropriate, that the intent was there, that people weren't making money off it, that they were run safely. I know there's a lot of booze involved. At least there's less booze now than there ever was.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because booze creates so many problems.
It does. Yeah.
You think of the problems that alcohol creates in society.
Oh yeah.
You have people complaining about the problems guns are creating. It's like, if the issue is to stop death, how about you look at booze? It's creating 4 times as many deaths as guns.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know, like, come on, it's just common sense to me.
Right. It is common sense.
So we're trying to reduce the amount of alcohol that is being consumed at these things by just talking through the message of, guys, if you're blackout drinking, you're missing the whole fucking point, right?
Right.
Like, tone it down. You can still have just as an amazing of a time, but remember it and do it safely.
Yeah.
And remember the friends that you made, connections that you made at this event. And overall, the events are safer and have a lot more value to people's lives. So the decrease in alcohol has been phenomenal for our organization.
You know what? I'm really glad that you pointed that out, because one thing I've noticed with a lot of these nonprofit, and I won't, obviously name any names. This isn't that type of podcast, but
that'll be my vlog.
Yeah, we're actually going to list every organization that does this. But one thing I've noticed about the nonprofits space amongst the veteran world is a lot of these organizations center their meetings around alcohol at such and such bar. We're going to have this sponsor that's a brewery or whatever, and it's like, guys, this is part of what's created the issue in our community. I think that is a massive problem. Yeah. And you've noticed it even on the hikes.
I mean, let's be real here. I think a big part of the reason why the nonprofit took off was because it was so simple. Let's just get together and have a good time.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
So what's a good time for your typical veteran? It's going to a bar.
Right. Yeah.
So remember, I never envisioned this in the beginning. I just held one event to bring people together, and
now it's massive.
Now we're probably at I don't know. Last count was 43,000 veterans have been at our events, but that last count was I want to say a year and a half ago.
Right.
So it's probably coming up on 50,000, probably.
Wow.
Right. And this is done with a very lean organization, very little money, decentralized chain of command. I don't want to get into nonprofits because it really pisses me off seeing the waste that goes on.
Yeah,
we haven't had paid staff, like pure volunteer, and look at the impact. I mean, half of these nonprofits, like, what is their impact?
It's huge.
Do they even have a method of measuring their impact? Do they even have a 8th grade level mission statement?
Yeah,
they don't. Everybody wants to start a nonprofit because it seems cool and it's the right thing to do. But and I actually, it's funny. I just made a video for my vlog, which I'm going to release pretty soon. So I got the editor finally, and I'm I have a very abrasive nature of helping.
Yeah.
Thanks to my father, or no thanks to my father, maybe.
Yeah.
And I like to, I'll kind of talk shit, ball bust, be obnoxious, but then be like, all right, how do we actually make a step forward in the right direction here? And a big part of what I want to do is and coach other people interested in being in the nonprofit space to, for one, not do it. Don't start another one. There's like 45,000 that are nonprofits. Stop.
And like 100 for each possibly specific thing.
1,000 for each thing. Yeah. So but that's step one. And then step two is, if you're going to do it, define the mission.
Right. And
come up with a means of gauging your efficacy. And then that's step one. And then step two is actually start helping people.
Right.
And then ask for money.
Right.
But don't say you're going to start a nonprofit and then start asking for money. Get the fuck out of here with that.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing that. Everyone is saying, "Oh, I'm starting this nonprofit. I'm raising money. I'm raising money. I'm raising money." Okay, so it sounds like you're spending a lot of time raising money. But what are you doing to help veterans?
Right. Yeah. The dark thing within that world being is that, some of that money, and again, not stating any specific organizations, but the dark thing in that world is when you're asking for those funds, it's like so many of these organizations, you're like, but where is your money actually going? And then that can turn into the dark side of, well, it's not. It's going straight to that guy's pocketbook. We've seen a lot of these organizations that have gotten in trouble lately in these past few years. It's been about that. It didn't start that way. I believe that it started out of good intentions.
Totally.
But then those funds, started making their ways to these expensive ski vacations or, going to the Alps or whatever. And then all of a sudden you look back on the organization. It's like, hey, why did we start in the first place again? What are we doing? What's the mission? And I think that points really well to what you were saying about having a mission statement carved out in the beginning and knowing like, okay, my biggest point isn't to have paid staff members or like this massive staff. It's actually to help veterans or help within this community. So that's interesting. I was thinking about something you said a minute ago, and kind of like the amalgamation of, Vet TV and then Irreverent Warriors and your Silkies hikes. One of the most important things I think, Donnie, about the coupling of those two, and you thinking about, this from very different ways and very
coupling which two?
Irreverent Warriors and Vet TV.
Okay.
Not saying that they're actually together, but that you had these two ideas. Is one of the problems I see in our community is it's like these one and dones, right? Like, well, we're going to bring you in for this one event. You're going to laugh, have fun, and then that's it. That doesn't heal. That's not what creates the healing process. Like, maybe that makes a guy aware of, oh, I do actually need help. Or I do actually need to, seek out some assistance. But that actual event, that one-timer event, doesn't create change, right? Like, you've created something with Silky Sykes where there's a community there and guys feel comfortable in reaching out to each other. And then Vet TV is a continuation of that, where you don't have to actually be there with those veterans, but you can create something that's on their TV screens and they can actually watch and feel a sense of community through it by watching humor. So I've thought it's interesting how you've, was that an active thought process for you? Was like, I really don't want to create these one and dones. I want to make sure that we're continually helping and continually creating humor?
Yes, because some people said exactly what you just said. And I think I read a comment, something like that. And it was like, what do you guys actually doing? You just coming together and partying? And that's it? And it's preventing suicide? And
the bigger your organization gets, the more you're going to see comments like that, of course.
Sure. Well, actually, this was a long time ago.
Oh, wow. Really?
This was probably 3 years ago, because I heard that and it stung. And I thought, guy's got a point. Me. Okay.
He's right.
So what do I do?
Right.
What's the next step? And the next step was, and my dad was a big part of this conversation, building community. It became so simple because the sense of community improves belonging and acceptance. The tribe can still exist when you get out of the military if you wanted to. And so it was an active thought process to make sure that what we were doing was much more valuable than just that one event. And I like to think that we have succeeded in making it more valuable than that. You know, we have this like pre-hike brief that's given now that we're improving it more and more. We're actually going to turn it into a video. We just had a little retreat here in my place in San Diego with some of our leadership recently. It's a half-year retreat. Our big retreat's in January at the Black Rifle Ranch.
Oh, cool. That's great.
Texas, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good time.
You're like 10 minutes away from my house out there.
Nice.
Yeah. It's really close. It's like, nice. You're not invited.
Actually, you should be next time to come document. We'd love that.
That would be awesome.
We'd love you to be part of that. But we do a lot of incredible things, getting together the hike coordinators, the leadership from all over the country. We get everyone together, and we kind of at the last one, we just rebuilt the whole nonprofit from the ground up, starting mission, vision, and core values, and then code of conduct. And we developed a brief to give before the hikes where it's just like, hey, guys, look, this is not about drinking. It's not just about partying. It's about connecting with others. And we reinforce that. Don't leave this thing today without at least 3 phone numbers of people that you met. Look, bro, if you have intentions to do a good thing, consider the importance of connection and community.
Right.
And make an effort to facilitate that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who's ever gets out of the military and is lacking purpose because nobody's handing them a fucking platter of purpose, just tell yourself, my purpose is to bring veterans together. And then make a Facebook post, hey guys, come to my house or come meet me at this bar at this time. Come play basketball with me. Let's go shoot hoops.
Right.
And if your body's all f***ed up like a lot of ours is, well then we'll play horse for starters, and then we'll play, what's the free throw game? Bump. We'll play bump next, you know, and or we'll go throw the baseball. Yeah. Or the football, just get out of the house and do something together with other veterans. It's really that simple. So if you're missing purpose, go do that. Just bring a couple of veterans together to do something, and all of a sudden you have purpose because you're the one that brought them together. It's that simple.
So within the model of Vet TV and what you're doing now, and where you're headed with this as an organization, can you talk a little bit about the struggles for you in entrepreneurship? Because a lot of people, we talked about this before the podcast.
How much more time do we have?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. The struggles of an entrepreneur? Come on.
This is going to take 6 hours.
Let me just talk through the 6 times I considered killing myself since starting this business.
By the way, for those of you that are having suicidal thoughts, do not start a business.
Oh yeah, do not become an entrepreneur.
The biggest way to save yourself. Yeah, true. Trust me. Off of the Veterans Project, I've had some deep dark thoughts. Yes. What would be your message? Because a lot of people see you as successful in this community and what you're doing, and
it's a facade.
It's a facade.
I'm an actor.
But it's true, man. It is true. Like, I have people tell me all the time, Donnie's killing it, man. He's living his dream. He's out there. He's getting after it. He found his purpose, and he's killing it. He makes me laugh all the time. He makes me cry. I watch his shows, and they're hilarious. They're really dark, but they're awesome, and I love him. And I see that.
Thank you to those who say that. That makes me feel really good. If you were in our last leadership meeting 2 hours before you got here, you wouldn't be saying that. Donnie's killing it. Yeah, he's banging his head against the wall.
But what about that, man? I mean, because I want people to know the struggle of it, because when they see that and they see that struggle, it's important, because a lot of guys just think, well, I could never do that. Like, Donnie's just really good at this. He's making it, and I could never start my own company. I could never do that. He's just really good at it. What would you say to them about some of the struggles you've had in this?
First thing I would do is I would slap them right across the face. Wake up!
Backhand pimp slap or just regular slap?
No, regular,
okay,
like a
regular
loving father slap.
Okay,
like you needed that.
Yeah, you need that. Loving father slap. I like that.
Although one time I did get a really solid backhand from my dad.
Did you?
Yeah. I was at the dinner table and me and my dad's asking me questions, something, family dinner is a big thing. And I don't remember what I said. I was just like, yeah, bros before hoes. And my dad goes like this. What did you just say? I said, bros before hoes. Crap! Flew out of my chair. Legs up, crackhead against the ground.
Over the back of the chair. Oh my gosh, man.
And he's like, get the up. Are you out of your bros before hoes?
Dude.
What family did you come from?
I remember my dad's, that made me think of my dad. And my dad is was born in Gary, which for those of you that don't know Gary, Indiana, it's it's where Michael Jackson's from.
I've heard that.
It's really bad.
Huh.
They call it Scary Gary. And they say, if you're driving to Chicago, do not, it doesn't matter if you have 4 flat tires and your engine is burning, do not pull off into Gary. And, you've got to be tough. So I grew up with this 6'4", 250-pound guy as my father. And he was very loving, he was. But there was definitely, I can count my life, on, 2 hands, how many hugs I got, as a kid. Because my dad was just not emotionally like that, and he was loving in that he brought home food, brought home food, put that on the table, took care of my mom, and was always just a good father. Mm-hmm. That was not his way of showing love, but I still remember this time, dude. I saw that old old school blue collar cat, steel mill. I saw that old side of him. I was getting out of my van on the way back from church. And my mom was like, you get inside, you need to do your homework. And I was like, nah, I'm good. I mean,
if I had said that, yeah.
Yeah. So I stepped out of the van and there was white lightning around the side of the vehicle. I've never seen my dad move that fast. And my dad was an athlete. He played basketball growing up in that environment. So you got to be good to go playing in that environment. That's that Larry Bird culture, out there, true studs, So I remember I just saw the peripheral vision, this real quick flash. And next thing I know, I felt like I got headbutted. I'm not really sure what he did, but he pulled some street move, and I was on my back quicker than I don't know. I was just it was nighttime. I couldn't see very well.
Could have been a roundhouse. Could have been an elbow. Could have been a headbutt.
Could have been anything. So. So I look up, and dude, he jumps on top of me and just starts wailing on me. Right?
Oh yeah.
I was about 17. I just joined the military and was getting ready to ship out the basic. I thought I evidently had already gone through Army training, which probably would not have even helped me in that scenario. But I was on my back. I thought I was a man. Man, oh my gosh. And just so then I get up and I push him.
Ooh.
Why would you do that? I pushed him in the chest.
Ooh.
Yeah. Just laid me out.
Yeah.
And I just remember seeing stars. And, that was it. And he said, you want to be a man? I'll show you what a man is. He's like, get up, clean yourself up, do your homework. He goes, and don't talk. I don't want to hear one word out of your mouth the whole rest of the night. But that made me think about that. My dad's going to hear that story. He's going to be horrified. He's like, that never happened, son.
Oh, my God. My dad, nowadays, when me and my brother brought up the times he gave us a good crack, he's just like, I don't want to hear that.
No, isn't that funny how that works now? It's they got into full grandpa mode.
He just goes, I have one thing in life that I regret. I've got a full life. I regret putting my hands on my children. Don't remind me.
Yeah. My dad definitely is the same way. He'll be like, I was a nice father. And it's well, not in that moment, you were not. But he was an amazing father. But, I don't even remember what I was getting to. But I think the humor side of, I think Vet TV and your entrepreneurial struggles.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Within that, yeah.
So we're talking about the struggle of an entrepreneur and how you're able to do it.
Yes.
Something like that. Okay, so... Oh no! What would you say to guys?
Yeah.
Who said, "Oh yeah, Donnie's just really good at this,
right?
And he can do it for all these other reasons other than insane work ethic."
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I've noticed is a lot of military people, consequently veterans, don't have work ethic,
which is crazy, right?
No, it's a government job. You can do the bare f***ing minimum and continue being promoted for 30 years.
You see that a lot in the Army. A lot of slick
Every branch.
sleeves. A lot of slick sleeves. What we call slick sleeves because, in the Army, no combat patch. You see it, and they're like an E8 or something in an infantry unit, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
How did that happen? You've been in for 20 years and you never deployed to combat?
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, you've slipped the stream there. Like, for sure.
Government. I mean, there's a reason why government work has that mentality. And I'm talking every facet of government work, or not that mentality, that stereotype.
Right.
It's because the system facilitates bare minimums. And that's it's just another vote for fucking capitalism. Who I don't need to preach that to your audience.
Right.
I don't think.
No.
But work ethic.
Yeah.
That's it.
I
am one of the hardest workers that I know. And
awesome.
It's funny because like nowadays I don't work nearly as hard as I did in the beginning. In the beginning, it was unhealthy. I mean, I'm talking 80 to 100-hour weeks.
You're almost spinning your wheels in a lot of ways, right?
Consistently.
Yeah.
80 to 100-hour weeks.
Yeah.
Completely disconnected from my social network. And going back to my point before of who I was to my friends, I was the one that brought everyone together. The most important thing in the world to me was the next party I was throwing for my friends. Social was everything. My social urges drove, I mean, 80% of my thoughts, even throughout college. Even Marine Corps, I would say it was less. It was probably 20, 25. But it was still throwing parties for my friends once a month when I was in the Marine Corps. And that's not true. In the beginning, I was. In training, maybe. Then when I started deploying, obviously not. But the social desires, it's just like how many people get off work and you're immediately on social media. You get off work and you go in a happy hour. You got off work and you got a dinner. You got your friends over here. You got a dinner you go to on Monday. You got a birthday party on Wednesday. You got your happy hours on Wednesday nights, and then your Thursdays. You got a date with your wife. You got this thing with your kids. And then on Friday, and then the weekends, the weekends are for play. You got the concert that you're going to, and this and that and the other thing. And it's just like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, get that shit the fuck out of your head. Entrepreneurship is sacrifice. Sacrifice everything that you believe to be fun. Anything that could be considered recreation. Get it the fuck out.
You know what's funny is, I'm really glad you said that, because just even a minute ago I was talking to my assistant and I brought her into a conversation. I said, well, I've got this one other veteran over here, but I might have to wait an extra day, and I'm headed to Arizona next, and I'm going to go to North Carolina. I'm driving all the way across the country to cover another veteran. This is like, I need to get out there. But, I really want to have a day in between, this drive. So maybe I'll just go to San Clemente or whatever, spend some time at the beach after. And Leslie, to credit her, she's awesome at pushing me into this, drive, which I love, and that passion. She goes, so why aren't you covering that other veteran for the podcast? And I go, well, I was going to she was like, you were going to take a beach day?
Oh, wow. She's calling you out. She's driving you. That's
driving
great.
me, right there. And she's like, this is why you're out there. You're not in California to go chill by the beach, boy. You are supposed to be working. And I was like, you're right. You're right. And it's funny. It's like, you don't have to push me in this work. I love what I do, as you know. I have that passion for it. But even in those small reminders really help too. Mm-hmm. It's like, I am here for that. That's the importance of the work. So that work ethic, that passion, that drive that you've shown within this, I mean, you're talking about 80 to 100-hour weeks. A lot of guys picture the parties, the soirees, going out, drinking, having fun.
I never go out. Ever.
But isn't that true? Isn't that true? What people would think when they think of entrepreneurs?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm gonna have a lot more time on my hands now.
This one messaged me on Instagram, and he said, "Hey, bro, just want to say I think it's really that guys like you and Matt Best are out there having a good fucking time, just loving everything, living the lifestyles of the rich and famous, while we're out here struggling." And I had zero compassion for this motherfucker. I sent him video responses.
Oh, dang.
And I was like, are you out of your fucking mind?
Dude, that's when you know you're serious.
I was like, I don't take a salary, mother.
Yeah.
That was his then. I take one now, but
Yeah.
I'm the lowest paid person in my company. I'm like, I don't take a salary. I put my life savings into this. And you know why I was able to start it? Because a lot of people say, oh, there's that. Because I knew how to save my money.
Yeah.
It's like we all make choices, right? Even my civilian friends are just like, well, you had all that money from deploying. Because I made a choice to join the Marine Infantry in a time of war. It was a fucking choice I made, and that choice put money in my bank account, and then I made the choice to save half of it. Choices. And then I made the choice once I was out to keep it saved until I was making a decision to pursue my life's dream. And at which time I made the choice to burn all the fucking ships and dump every penny of my life savings into this business.
Yeah.
Choices, buddy.
Yes.
I choose never to go out. I disc all those friend events and shit every night of the week. I've got all my friends from high school, fraternity in San Diego State. I still talk to all my frat buddies, all the girls from the sororities that I made friends with. I've been to their weddings and their baby showers and shit. The people I personally trained with, everybody. And Facebook was a constant influx of invites to social events that truly made my heart happy.
Yes.
I love my friends, and I completely disconnected. I told every single one of them, hey guys, I'm really sorry, but stop inviting me, because I don't even want the thought of that event distracting me from whatever the fuck it is that I got to work on for the business I have committed to.
Right.
And first it was a nonprofit. The nonprofit I was still doing 80-hour weeks. So in the business, it was 100-hour weeks, and it got unhealthy.
Yeah.
And I've heard Evan Hafer talk about his unhealthy work ethic the first few years of the business, where his doctor had to tell him, hey, you need to stop or you're going to die. I didn't have a doctor tell me that. I just realized I was, you know what it came down to? I realized that I was having more and more shit talked about me by my employees because I was such a fucking asshole at work every day.
Wow.
Because here it is. I started this thing. Everyone thinks I'm living my dream, but yet the people who spend the most time with me, who are my staff, they're like, they don't like this guy. Isn't that shit?
That is, yeah.
It has brought me to tears on so many occasions.
Wow.
I'd be careful not to well up too much right now, but that was one of the most miserably eye-opening experiences for me as an entrepreneur, was that I'm living my dream. This is the company I dream of. I'm a professional writer, director, producer, and actor, and I'm so miserable that I'm making everyone around me miserable.
Wow.
It's like, wow. Something's got to fucking change here.
Yeah.
And
so what changed?
What changed was I had to take a look at, I had to consider other people's feelings more, because I came into this with this kind of Steve Jobs-ish mentality, with this hard Marine officer, battalion commander mentality of just holding people accountable and just getting the fucking job done. You know, it's mission first, troops second. I didn't even have time for troops in this business, because this business, you know, since the beginning, I put all my money into it, and then the business was still running out of cash before making payroll. I had to borrow money to make payroll a couple times.
Wow.
And, you know, I had to tell my people, hey, I'm really sorry. This is a couple of Christmases ago. I might not be able to make payroll on the 15th of December when you got to buy your kids fucking Christmas presents.
No wonder they hate you.
Yeah. And
that's tough.
The pain there. And then in the meanwhile, while I'm telling them that, I'm like, yo, hey man, we got this deadline. We got to do this. We got to do this. No, we can't leave yet, man. The job's not done. You've been working 12 hours, but the job's not done. Driving, and never celebrating wins. That's another thing I've also just learned very recently, was that like there's no gratitude here, because there's so many fucking deadlines.
Yeah.
It's just like, as soon as someone does something, we make television.
Right.
We take these concepts that exist in our head, we bring them to paper, and we put them on the fucking screen. We are a living example every 6 weeks that you can make your dreams reality, because we do it every 6 weeks. It's in what the people in this company do is nothing short of completely remarkable. And it is a constant reminder that you can do anything that you set your mind to, and you can make your dreams come true if you're willing to pay the price.
Right. Yeah. And that's a big part of it.
And that sacrifice is the price. Sacrifice all of these other things in life that you enjoy for the profession that should give you joy. But it's got so much work and not enough gratitude. It's not bringing enough joy, right? Like our directors are bringing these beautiful things to the screen, and we're not having a party for them here in the office because we don't have the time for a party because everyone's working 10, 12 hours, and I'm too afraid of making people be in the office after that. So now I've just made a decision recently. We're going to start having celebratory parties in the office during the workday. We're not going to be drinking.
Yeah, right.
I'm very fortunate. This company is not many heavy drinkers. Actually, there are no heavy drinkers in the company anymore.
Wow.
We're all pot smokers. And even then, it's just like we reserve pot to celebrate after we've gotten the work done. I'm very proud of that because I really do. I come from an alcoholic family, and the cancer that alcohol has brought to my family and to my life in general. That's why I stopped drinking.
Right.
I don't drink anymore.
Wow.
Why? Because 95% of the times I have gotten hurt, in trouble, or let someone down under the influence of alcohol.
Wow. What a message.
So it's like, at what point do you finally learn from your fucking mistakes, guys?
Yeah.
You know, like, let's get drunk and make bad decisions. Yeah, until you're like 21, 22, and then you should stop that.
Yeah, right.
The guys are still doing it into their 30s.
Yeah. Well, longer than that, man.
More, yeah, give me their whole lives.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what? It's the definition of insanity, right? You keep doing the same thing, getting the same result.
Yeah.
You're drinking heavy. You know, that's why I just saw something that pissed me off about Hunter Thompson glamorizing him. He's a fucking drunk asshole. There are plenty of people who have created beautiful, brilliant, intelligent, culture-shifting art, like Norman Lear.
Yeah.
Guy changed American fucking culture. He didn't need the bottle. Great shit.
Well, look at, I'm a writer and I'm a big, I love Ernest Hemingway, but look at him, man. Look at the embarrassing photos of him hanging out in like Havana and stuff. Like, you'll see photos out there in Google Images, like, dude, that's part of your legacy. Like, that's embarrassing. Like,
but we as a culture, we glamorize that.
We do glamorize
the alcoholic writer.
Right, yeah.
It's
beautiful. No, Ernest Hemingway was miserable, like, till the day he died. I mean, he was very miserable.
Sure. He wrote great stuff. Could he have written great stuff without being a miserable alcoholic?
I'm sure.
I think all of the other people who have written great stuff who weren't miserable alcoholics are proof that it can be done.
Yeah, right.
all you need is proof.
Yeah.
I saw the Range 15 guys when they did their Kickstarter. I saw that and I'm like, wow, if they can do it, so can I.
Right.
It was that simple.
Yeah.
Every step in my entrepreneurial journey, I'm just like, well, someone else has done it, so I know for a fact I can too. And here's the message that I really want to communicate to all these who say that, oh, Donnie's just good at it. I used to be, and I still look at myself this way sometimes, I used to think I was dumb. I used to think I just wasn't that smart. Like my SATs, I want to say the first time I did them, I was like 1050. And then I took a class, a Kaplan, the best class you can take. I got up to like 1200 at one test. No, it was like 11 something. But then when I finally actually came and did the test on the day, I ended up getting low 11s. I'm not that naturally genetically smart as a person, and I never have been. I've never been organized. I've never been disciplined. I've always been the opposite of my dad. My dad's been one of the most disciplined and organized people I've known in my life. As I'm able to achieve success and make dreams reality, I realize it all comes down to discipline and organization. And I never fucking had it my whole life. I was one of the biggest clusterfucks that I ever knew. I was late to everything. I still am late to plenty. But there wasn't a single job I wasn't fired for being late. There wasn't a single person in my life that I didn't let down for forgetting that I had to meet them. Constant. And so I had to develop this really cool personality to make up for all the fucking letting down I did of people because I was just a clusterfuck. I'm a space cadet. Yeah. Kind of like my mom. I get that my mom's, she's always dreaming. Yeah. She's always talking to herself. That's me.
Yeah.
I'm a space cadet.
Yeah. Me too.
My whole life, people thought that I was high because I'm sitting there like this. No, I'm just daydreaming because my imagination is like a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And I have been able to get to the point that I have because I've been able to identify all of these atrocious habits of mine that constantly brought me 2 steps back when I was taking 3 steps forward, and finally realize I need to fix these things, and I need to outwork and outthink and think differently, and I need to organize my thoughts, and I started learning it. I want to say late teens. If I just a little bit of planning, a little bit of discipline, a little bit of organization, thinking differently, if I put those things together, I achieve success every fucking time. And I was still fucking it up my whole time. I was fraternity president I was voted twice. Yeah. Then I got fired. Got fired from being the president.
Wow.
My fraternity. And there have been multiple times in my life, to include being a Marine officer and being an entrepreneur, when I have felt incompetent. I felt this crushing, and I know there's so many people who can relate to this feeling of just like, I can't do it. I'm not capable of doing that. And I still, as an entrepreneur, in the last 6 months, I felt that again. I had this miserable feeling, and that reminded me of these other instances in my life when I felt incompetent. To include one time as a Marine officer, two times as a Marine officer, actually. A couple times as a Marine officer, I felt it. Once when I was fired as a platoon commander.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, rifle platoon commander. I was fired. I was rehired 2 hours later.
Okay. Those moments of like pure anger, somebody being mad at you and getting fired, or was it what led to that? Because when I think 2 hours rehired, I'm thinking, oh, they were really pissed at you in that moment.
There was I was in the forest.
Oh, okay.
With my platoon, and actually, I don't want to tell the full story because I'm worried that it's going to come back and lead to a $100,000 fine that I'm going to have to pay.
Okay, all right. Well, we won't tell that then.
So we'll withhold that.
Yeah, we'll withhold that one.
But I fucked up. Is what I did.
Yeah.
And I didn't make an order clear to my unit, and I didn't supervise properly, and that's what you get. And that's why I'm part of. What infuriated me the rest of my career as a Marine officer was lack of accountability of officers. And I feel totally justified in wanting to hold other officers accountable because I got fired. Right? I felt the pain. I owned it 100%.
Yeah.
And then the XO, Battalion XO in BC told my commander, no, you can't fire this guy. So, like, I'm all about firing motherfuckers. Fire them. Hold them accountable. And that doesn't happen enough after the rank of captain in the Marine Corps.
Right.
And I'm sure the whole military. And so you see a lot of resentment towards officers in Vet TV's films. And rightfully so, because that is an emotion that is shared amongst the entire enlisted audience.
Yeah,
we are selling this to.
Well, it's really surprising coming from an officer's perspective, though, because people don't expect that. People don't expect you to hold your own feet to the fire. You know, like,
not at all.
They're wait, Donnie was an officer? Oh my god! Yeah. Like, he's really hard on officers.
Oh, totally.
You were in the project, like, super hard on officers. And I remember a couple messages I got from, like, you know, hey, tell this douche nugget or whatever that you Marine officers are the best officers in the world, and we lead the world. We lead the universe in best officers. And it's like. It's like, well, maybe that's true, but I'm just showing you Donnie's perspective, and it's actually really hilarious to hear it. So.
Oh, and by the way, he's an officer.
Yeah, he's an officer. Yeah. What?
Yeah, I'd love to see what all the people who served under that guy thought of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the other time was when I became a fire support team leader, and my job is to control a 3D battle space.
And you did that in Afghanistan, right?
I did.
Yeah.
And also when I was an officer doing land nav, I was in every single remedial land nav until the very last one where they're like, if you don't pass this one, you're out. You're going home.
I hate land nav.
And I finally got it. But what happened was, and this is, I think, actually, there's a really cool lesson here. The lesson was, you want to master a craft, what do you need to do? You need to keep fucking doing it. You need your 10,000 hours. I had more land nav experience than everyone, I think, in my TBS company, because I was in remedial land nav every fucking Saturday. And you know why? It was because of my attention span. Because what do? I'm plotting your points on the map, right. Piece of cake. Getting your azimuth all planned out, piece of cake. But then you got to get out there and you take your compass and you got to look at something in the distance and say, okay, that's where I'm walking to. And then you got to keep track of your steps. I take 15 steps. I forget how many steps I've taken. I take 15 steps. I forget what tree I'm supposed to be walking towards. I mean, every single fucking time, all of TBS. I know every officer out there has been through this. Yeah. Can relate at some point to forgetting, oh, wait. What thing was I walking towards? And so I kept doing it. And then finally, someone was just like, I was just talking. I was so frustrated. And someone, I don't remember who, was just like, dude, stop fucking with the azimuth. They were just like, you're in great shape. Because I could outrun motherfuckers. Yeah. All day long. And they were just like, just use attack points and use the roads. And that's what I did. I started fucking sprinting. I stopped trying to powering through the bush, the Quantico bush. Yeah. Go up and down creeks and fingers and draws and getting stuck, spiders' webs and lost. And, oh my! I remember one time I got so lost, and boy, did I feel incompetent at that moment. I was just like, I'm going to be the first lieutenant to be stuck out in here in the middle of I was in the middle of like this river valley, and I had no idea where I was at this point. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get out. I'm like, what embarrassing. Fucking force of willpower. Yeah. I just started running. And I found my way out of there. But what I learned was to use the attack points. And then by the time I used attack points, my last couple things, I'm like, it clicked. And then ever since then, when I got to my platoon, I like to think I was better than all my guys in my platoon at land nav. And a couple of them thought that they were super fucking good at land nav. And a couple of times I showed them up and like, oh, sir, touche. Like,
I got here by sucking, guys.
Yeah. You know, I learned through doing, through failure, through repetition. Keep doing, never fucking stop. The amount of times it's 3:00 in the afternoon in the basic school. Yeah. And I have no choice but to keep trying. Repetition, perseverance. That's entrepreneurship.
Wow.
Banging your head against the fucking wall. Why aren't these Facebook ads working? Why are we losing subscribers? Why aren't we gaining as many as we want? There's always another thing to try. And so I have been able to push through feelings of incompetence and push through adversity because of my willpower. My willpower has guided everything I have ever done. My last semester of college, I took 26 units.
Wow.
Why? Because my father said, if you do not graduate college, and I took 5 years. I was trying to be Van Wilder. I didn't want to graduate. I was the president of my fraternity twice. My reputation on campus was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Everywhere I went, I had buddies everywhere. I'd go to any party. You come to my frat house. College was I am forever, and I'm all my buddies are so excited, forever trying to recreate my college experience.
Yeah.
Because it was that amazing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do as an entrepreneur. That's why I don't like to say my age. That's why I'm 30, still living like I'm in college. And I hope I will be to my early 40s, and then I'll start my family and then be a great dad and husband. But until then, I'm living the fucking college frat life.
Yeah.
Because it's the most fun time I ever had. So, what enabled me to get here and to get through that last semester of college, my dad said, don't you dare pull that bullshit where you go to graduation and you walk, but you don't actually get the certificate. You know, a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
Because San Diego State is impacted. You need a couple more classes before you get the certificate. My dad said, if I don't get a certificate in my fucking hand, I'm not going to talk to you for years, and you're never going to see anything good out of me for a long time. And so I was just like, oh, fuck. So my second to last semester, my 5th year of college, I took 19 credits. My last semester, I took 26. That's
terrible.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And so how did I do it? Well, I went on ratemyprofessor.com, and I found all of the classes for my GE that I could choose professors that had a bunch of options. Right. I chose the easiest professors. I did enormous research before, and I talked to everybody I could.
Yeah.
Back on MySpace, hitting people, hey, what about this professor? What about this one? Do my research. I choose the easiest ones, the ones that don't grade on attendance, so I know I can skip some of the classes.
Yeah.
Because I was double booking myself. I took a class at a community college that a friend of mine was teaching. I never showed up once. He just fucking got me, got me the grade. 2 of my classes, I knew I could pay people to write some of my papers and to write some of my labs. I think it was for physiology and some sociology. And so I created this massive plan. I was going to have a part-time job to pay people to do some of this work for me.
Wow.
So that I could get that fucking degree and finish with 26 units.
That's entrepreneurship right there.
That's willpower.
That's willpower.
That's where there is a will, there is the way. And the will was there because of the threat from my father.
Right.
It's all about will.
Yeah.
And you know what? Most people don't have fucking will, man.
Yeah.
People have weak backbones, weak wills. And I think if people actually thought about what it meant to have willpower, what that looks like in terms of action, that means like you've been going for, say, 14 hours. And you got to wake up in 5. And this person, you had plans to meet with them. A lot of guys, it's just like you say you've got a date with your wife at this time, girlfriend or your friend or whatever, like on Saturday at 8 or Tuesday at 8, whatever the fuck it is. And it's just like they make that deadline. They're too afraid to sacrifice that fun because they don't have the willpower. When you really have willpower, it's like, I don't care what's going on. I am finishing what I told myself I would finish today. And I'll push through a building. I'll move a mountain. I'll lose sleep. I'll have unhealthy amounts of caffeine. I'll sacrifice fun in relationships. That's some entrepreneurs sacrifice relationships. How many entrepreneurs have wives who at some point tell them, "Hey, it's me or the business." After a couple years of it, how many wives say, "Hey, look, your kids need you," and the entrepreneur has a decision to make.
It's really hard helping people understand, especially in your family a lot of times, which is like the ideal family, of course, is like, your wife or husband supporting you in that model and understanding that you're going to have to work those hard years up front in order to create that comfortable lifestyle that you seek. But still, there's going to be work after that as well, even when you're successful. I see it a lot in guys where their wives or husband is like, "Hey, listen, I don't know what you're doing here and I don't get it. And you've got this much time to get it done." It's like, there is no pattern for that, for creating that success. You can't say within a certain deadline, we're going to have the success after 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. So it's like completely unrealistic, the model of that. And then you understand as a family member, wanting that person to be there, but it's like not understanding that in order to have that comfortable lifestyle that you want, that desire, me not being at work from 9 to 6 or whatever, sitting at a desk. And yeah, maybe I'm able to make Johnny's baseball games or whatever on the weekend, but I'm going to be a miserable wreck when I'm there because I'm thinking about Monday morning coming up. In order to create that, we've got to work these first years up front in order to get to what I'm getting.
That's it.
But then, not propping that up and not supporting that. I mean, that's what love is, man. Like, for me, is like, I'm not going to go on a tangent about love, but that's sacrifice, is like understanding like, hey, in order to make this level, right, which is what you're doing, probably a large part of the reason you stay single throughout a lot of this is like
100%.
Like, I know that the biggest chance is somebody's going to try to tear me down in what I'm doing. It's going to be really hard to get that support that I need to prop this up. And I'm never going to be around, right?
Yeah. I've had multiple women I've dated, and I feel fortunate to date every woman I've dated is amazing. Like every guy is like, how the did you let that go?
Yeah.
How did you not marry that? And it's because at some point, well, previously, back when I was getting myself into longer term, more committed relationships, every one of the woman ended up feeling like shit because she was not a priority in my life. My priority was my business. And no woman entering a relationship with a man she loves wants to feel like she's number 2.
Yeah, true.
She wants to be number 1 ahead of your mom and your dad and your grandma and all that shit. She wants to be number fucking 1.
Right.
And for me, creating the nonprofit and this, it's like they're not number 1. The business is number 1. So I finally got to the point after causing enough pain in women that I was dating and also pain for myself, developing compassion. I was like, I can't keep doing this to anybody because I don't care who it is. No woman is going to be number 1 in my life right now because if she is number 1, then that means my business is number 2. And I've got too many fucking employees whose salaries need to be paid and we don't have enough cash reserves in the bank and we're too understaffed for this thing to be number 2. At this stage, this has to be number 1. And that's why my plan is to work like this until my early 40s, when I've created massive businesses and machines that don't need me as much. I'm already kind of getting there now that John Acevedo is the president of VetTV, because when it comes to business, that guy runs circles around me. And it's like the business actually functions better when he creates the plans and the structure and studies the data, is making decisions, and he says, hey, I need you to do these things. And that has been enormous. Awesome. For both of us, because before it's like I had all the power and he had all the ideas and through studying the data, which I'm not studying the data because I'm too busy writing,
right?
Because I'm focused on the product. And so now it's like I'm still holding the power here, but I'm not having the information to make the right decisions. And so that was really frustrating for mostly for him. And I wish I made a decision earlier, but now that he's in charge of the business, it's like, thank fucking God. Now I focus on writing and then press, external relations, just building relationships and attracting talent to come work with us. That's my focus because that's what I'm good at and that's what I want to do. That's what makes me the most happy. And he is a business genius and growing business makes him the most happy.
It's awesome.
Him creating a plan for the business makes him as happy as writing a script makes me happy, or acting, directing, so on.
So, VetTV obviously is growing, but here's the thing, man, is like, I even remember when we were in Austin and you were doing a show, and I remember you vocalizing some of your concerns about the model, and like, man, I put all myself into this. Like, it was obvious, like there was a real strain on you in those moments. I think this was a couple years ago, man. It was probably 2 or 3 years ago now. But hearing you like vocalize those concerns really showed me how hard this was, and what you were doing, like emptying your savings in support of this. So for those of you who are listening to this right now and think like, hey, man, Donnie's super successful. Now, we've said this 10 times throughout the podcast, but he is doing a great job, but it is a struggle every day.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to keep pushing. You have to keep driving. And the lesson is that passionate pursuit takes a lot of work, but you're consistently doing that.
Mm-hmm. So
how dark have some of those days been for you when you've been in kind of the hole, where it's like, man, I don't know, how has that been tough recently, or has it been easier lately?
Lately, past maybe 2 months.
Yeah,
I like to think that it has been, because I actually made some changes of our staffing.
Okay.
Right people, right jobs.
Yeah.
Okay. So once we did that, it was like, oh wow, that's significantly better. Right prior to then, I got to the I don't say dark place. I don't go dark. I don't think like most people do. Like,
right, yeah.
I'm always dealing with suicide, and the reality is my last suicidal ideation was being bullied at 15. Never once since. Not even the slightest, tiniest little no, not even a fucking 100 light years close to that kind of thought.
Right.
And I feel very fortunate for that. I had one ideation, 15, lasted for maybe 30 seconds, and that's all I got on my books. So I don't think that I go dark.
Yeah.
I just get really stressed, and I get really frustrated, and I have to exercise, spend time alone. And I mean, truth be told, I talk to myself a lot.
Me too. Yeah.
And I have to lay all the things out and the problems out, and I get really deep and a lot of the stress is people, and it's like every other entrepreneur I've ever talked to, it's like all your problems from this time to this time are going to be people. And then from this time to this time, it's going to be, I want to say money. And then from this time to time, it's going to be people. And it's all because I started a business full of my friends, right? And now I have to manage my friends.
Which is tough.
The most miserable part of this job is that I have a company full of my friends. I'm talking one of these guys, Christopher Michael, 25 years.
Wow.
Best friends, 25 years. Greg Kelly, guy who wrote and directed Checkpoint Charlie, which Checkpoint Charlie 2 is coming out. That thing is Netflix all the way.
Awesome.
Like, it's insane. We've been friends, same fraternity.
Wow.
Same frat in college. So that, I don't know, 12 years there. And then who else? And a handful of other people that we've worked with that are old friends. But then everyone in this company has all become a close friend of mine. I live with 2 of them, Jessica Mandala and Fernando Rivera.
Cool.
You know what I'm saying? So having to keep driving these people who are my friends, and going from moments where we have this amazing laughter together, and then the next day having to hold them accountable for something, and then feel their resentment, right? These are people who look to me for love and affection, because I like to think I can make people feel really good. And then to have to flip around to the other side and express my disappointment, anger, frustration with them for something that in a company full of highly sensitive and emotional artists, that's the most miserable part of this job. I won't say dark, I'll just say lonely.
Right, lonely, yeah.
Right? Because as soon as I flip that, and I'm not being the happy, loving guy that they enjoy working with sometimes and enjoy being around sometimes, as soon as I turn from that, they don't want anything to do with me.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Wow.
And they'll go out of their way to avoid me, because me holding them accountable hurts 100 times more than somebody else holding them accountable.
Right, yeah. That's interesting.
And so now these people that I love, they're my favorite audience, right? Like, as a comedian, I need to think I'm making people laugh.
Yeah.
This is who I am. I sit in my room and I make videos talking to the camera, and just thinking that one day people will laugh makes me happy.
Yeah.
I've come to accept it. I need that. But my favorite audience is my friends and family. So when my favorite audience, the people I love the most, don't want anything to do with me, that sucks. That's fucking miserable.
That's rough.
And that's lonely. Because as I've come to realize through this experience, I'm one of the most sensitive and emotional people I know.
Really?
Without comparison. When I finally allow myself to feel a sense of sadness, it's like turning on a huge, like a fire hose, and I'm bawling and sobbing. And this is who I've always been. And for all that time that I was so focused on being an alpha male, many years of being, I was jacked. I was fighting all the time. I had to beat up all the bullies in the world. And then in the Marine Corps, it's all fucking alpha male, right? Yeah. Infantry officers are some competitive motherfuckers.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
It's a constant competition to be the alpha all day, every day, to be the funniest guy, to be the smartest guy, to be the most physically fit guy, just to be hard.
Yeah.
Right? And so I had to suppress that part of my personality. But the reality is that if I'm experiencing a sorrowful emotion with someone I love, if I allow myself to actually feel, I'm bawling. And that is who I am.
Wow.
And I finally come to accept that at 30 years old. and since accepting that, I'm a much happier person. Since letting go of having the desire to be the alpha, it's like, my God, life is so much better.
That's awesome.
Ugh. It allows me to express myself much better without having that constant worry about, is this going to make me less of an alpha in their eyes?
Interesting.
And in business, alpha means nothing.
That's true.
Right? Because you could be a fucking Nazi, but then behind your back, everyone's talking shit about you.
Yeah. Everyone's
thinking, they're looking for other jobs. Right? So Steve Jobs got away with it for as long as he did, and I'm sure plenty of other entrepreneurs do, because they can accept a high turnover rate, and because people desire to be there so badly. Right. This happens in Hollywood all the time too. Big directors and producers, even actors and shit, like their status is so high, and the demand to work with them and for them is so high that they can get away with treating people poorly. They can get away with a lack of compassion.
Right.
But the majority of the business world is not the case. And so if you're a real hard ass, and you're holding people to the fire, but you're turning over employees every couple of weeks, there's a problem. Proud to say that our turnover rate is beautifully low. Beautifully low. We got the same people here since when we started, minus very few. And that is, I will not say that that's because of me. I would say that's because of the culture. It's that these people have enjoyed, in general, the people around them enough that they push through, back when I was a Nazi, and they push through the long hours and lack of gratitude at times. So the whole notion of being the alpha, that's another thing that a message that I want to communicate to our community, is that let that go, dude. You're not in the fucking grunts anymore. Or even just the Marine Corps in general. If a Marine admin guy pushing paperwork, he, for the next 20 years of his life, is still trying to be the alpha. It's like, let it go, man. Like, being the alpha is, I believe, is actually damaging. Like all the liberals and they got it wrong. Toxic masculinity, what that really means is a constant competition to be the alpha. And if you can reduce that competition, you can get rid of some of that the harmful shit. Men got to be fucking men. That better never go away. But you don't always have to compete to be the alpha in unhealthy ways.
Right. Because then it becomes, propaganda in a lot of ways too, like where you're, not realistically going after what it means to be a man or a warrior. Rudy and I talked about this concept of the gardener, of the man in the garden who finishes his career as a warrior, right? Even the Spartan culture celebrated men who would go back and then become the peacekeeper, go to Senate, go to Congress or whatever. They had fought, they spent their time, and then they got out, and then it's like, now the job is to take care of your family.
Yeah.
To be that peaceful man. It's not that.
Know your role, dude.
Know your role. Yeah, exactly.
You're not in the military anymore.
Yeah,
give it up.
Yeah, you're not in the military anymore. There's a reason for that model within the military role, but that outside of the military, people look at you, they're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, calm down, Yeah. And that whole, that toxicity is really, it's really just propagating something false, like this narrative that you've got to be mean to be hard, be brutal to be tough. And that's just not the reality. Yeah, there were times in firefighter you got to yell at your guys. You got to get on to somebody. But what I found even in the Army model when I was a team leader was like sometimes speaking softly to my guys and like, opening up with them. Be like, hey, man, I'm really struggling with this. Can you guys help me with this? That's not always going to be the model in an infantry company, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it's say, hey guys, round table here. Who wants to talk? What are you guys frustrated about with me? What can I do better?
Mm-hmm.
And opening yourself up to that critique, and therefore showing a softer side of yourself. But I truly think that's the more masculine thing, more manly thing, being vulnerable in that moment, expressing that to your guys like, hey, I do have this weakness. I need to admit that. Can we help work on this? And that's what you essentially are doing, here in this podcast, even is saying, hey, man, I suck at this. I didn't do this well. I wish I would have managed my people better here. Admitting those vulnerabilities makes people more comfortable with you,
Yeah.
Like that model works within the company. It works within life, man.
Yeah.
You got to do that with your family too. So it's very powerful to hear you say that. But I wanted to wrap things up. I know we've been on this. This would be like, could go on for 10 hours because you're such an interesting guy. I love it. I mean, but, I wanted to ask you about finishing, about goals and your legacy and where you're going. Because I say that statement at the end or the beginning of every podcast, but it's not just a cliche to me. Our legacies are the mission is something that I believe in very strongly. Rudy and I talked about it yesterday within that archetype of storytelling, true storytelling, not the way that Hollywood necessarily defines it, where it's like, hey, find us the thing that's going to bring us the most money, that's going to entertain. We got Rambo #10 coming out, and but what's the biggest bang for our dollar? Exactly. But for me, storytelling is changing lives. It's impacting the community. It's showcasing our real lives, putting those in a format that's digestible, like we're doing with the project, like you're doing Vet TV and the humor side, showing people the real weaknesses, the vulnerabilities, the life struggles that we have, showcasing that as a legacy piece, highlighting that is so important. What are your goals going forward with your legacy piece, and what you're doing with Vet TV?
Okay, so I'll do Vet TV. Mm-hmm. And myself personally, they're kind of they're very similar.
Yeah.
So with Vet TV, I want this to be a vehicle with which to build community, and I want to do so by having one aspect of our business is the model that we have right now. It's a subscription service. So think of that as I like to say HBO Now, high quality television on a paid subscription model. I'm starting up Vet TV Films now as well.
I didn't know that.
Vet TV Films is going to be a different business model built on selling films on the open market, not just within the context of our app.
Gotcha.
But these are films sold to the veteran community. I mean, anyone can buy them, but they are to be sold to the veteran community. And these are all going to fall underneath the umbrella of recreate, parody, and celebrate the military experience. All right? So these films, what I want to do is I want to have all the big names in our community leading films. In our community, we have stars.
We do.
Their names are Matt Best, Nate Boyer, Rudy Reyes, Tim Kennedy, Drew Hernandez, Yusha Thomas, John Burke. These guys who, every one of us, there is this little kid inside who wants attention. Every one of us. And that gives us energy. And I know almost all these guys. And all these guys, I think, are beautiful people because they'll get that attention, they'll get that energy from others, and in return, they give back love. They all give back good things with the attention that they get.
Right.
Right? So that's why I love these guys, and I want them to lead films. Tim Kennedy is the fucking Chuck Norris of the veteran community. Look at how he's branded himself already. Hard to kill.
Yeah.
Like, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Except, unlike Chuck Norris, the fucking Air Force guy, Tim is actually a true killer.
Yes.
A true warrior.
Truly dangerous man.
In the ring and in the battlefield. Rudy Reyes, the Jean-Claude Van Damme of the military community.
One of the most loving guys that scares me the most out of anybody in the world.
He has the martial arts. He's got this beautiful aesthetic in both face and body.
Oh, yeah.
He has the personality that is that peaceful warrior. He's got both sides.
Mm-hmm.
He's fucking Van Damme.
Yeah. We got people salivating over here already.
Yeah. We got Matt Best. He is, I look at him, and I told him recently, and he was just like, bro, I think you nailed it. He's the fucking Ryan Reynolds of our community.
He does remind me a little bit of Ryan, for sure.
Just look at the humor. Yeah. Just listen to the voice of Deadpool, and then listen to Matt's book. It's I think Matt's 100 times funnier, but Matt's actually been a badass on the battlefield. And he combines that beautiful look with the badassery and a sense of humor. That's Ryan Reynolds, in my opinion. No one else in Hollywood has nailed that except Ryan. And then I want to be the Adam Sandler of our community. I just want to be that happy, goofy, silly guy that in every film goes through the hero's journey, being an average guy who is pushed into a journey where he has to become the best version of himself. Because that's my real life journey. That's me to the T. And if I can recreate that in films, just like Adam Sandler did, through telling veteran stories and military stories, then what I would like to do, going back to the legacy, is I want to be living proof that you can do anything you set your mind to.
Awesome.
I want to be living proof that you can make your dreams a reality. Because I was not this awesome, amazing guy that some people think I am, which I'm not in real life.
He is.
I wasn't my whole life. I grew from being this kid who was bullied to the point of considering suicide, from this kid who thought who was incompetent, who has never been significantly smart, who has always struggled with math, who has always struggled with communication and being on time, and all of these things that everyone struggles with. I just want to say, look, I've been you. I've been exactly who you are now. I've been that.
I've been there. Yeah.
And I am the person I am now because I was willing to work for it.
Yeah.
And so I want my films to show that. And I want all of these films of these guys who are stars already, that I want to make stars of Vet TV films. I want all of their journeys to do the same thing for the community. And that's what Happy Madison Productions did. Every single film takes the protagonist, shows them as an average guy that gets forced to be above average through this mission that he accepts. Adam, he's got to make the money to save his grandma's house. He's got to win his dad's business. Tommy Boy, got to win his dad's business or save his dad's business. You know what I mean? All they have these goals to achieve, but in the process of achieving those goals, they have to develop themselves and grow as a person. Yeah. And what I loved about Adam that I want to put in my films too is that he was always nice to the little guys, to the little dorks and the nerds and the social outcasts and the weirdos.
That's true.
And all the people that I was when I was younger. He was nice to them in every film and in real life. And at the end of the film, they all rally together to save him and help him achieve his goal. So there's this message of treat the little guys like they're gold. And I want to communicate that through films. That's my personal legacy, is that right there. Wow. But through the veteran community, there is the television shows, there are the films, and then there's Vet TV Live, which is going to be live events, which Irreverent Warriors, I just realized, has built the infrastructure, kind of. I mean, I don't know how it would look, but to have a USO tour, our own USO tour, with all these stars that we're developing, these characters that these people come to love, because these characters are recreating their experiences. Now they're going on live tours around the country at the Silky Sykes. The infrastructure's there. Yeah. So that's Vet TV Live events. I want that to build into the Great American Veteran Festival that will essentially be like the veteran Burning Man, the veteran Coachella or Kaboo, which is this mixture of arts, entertainment, but celebrating the military experience. Because if we can recreate, parody, and celebrate the military experience, we can bring veterans together in huge numbers. Awesome. Nothing else has proven to bring veterans together other than entertainment. Nothing brings anyone together like entertainment does in the entire country. Not even politics. Political rallies. I think Trump is the first fucking guy to have a rally that big. Yeah. Before then, it's just entertainers.
And he is an entertainer, too.
That's right, touche. Yeah. The guy's a fucking entertainer. Yeah. The guy's a comedian.
Yeah.
No one else knows it. Yeah. I know it as a fellow comedian. Yeah. Right. So it's like there's that, and then the other idea that I have is Vet TV Free, which is a free app, it's the same app. Mm-hmm. It's all put together in one app. But the app is filled with really cheap, easily digestible content that you would see on social media. That social media is cracking down more and more on dark military humor. Well, so what we've all noticed is that there's millions of veterans and active duty people out there who are creating pages that are military related, and they're expressing military humor on it. So there is this desire for military people to express themselves. I'm seeing these new TikTok things. Have you seen TikTok?
Yeah, I've seen it.
The app, they're in uniform, like singing songs and shit. I look at it and I think to myself, oh my God, if anybody in my infantry unit did that while I was in, they would have got the beat out of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Combat deploying unit. All my sergeants and my platoon sergeants had all been in combat 2-3 times. If they saw that shit, that guy would have had his head through a curveball.
Yeah.
However,
you know what's funny? to get pause of that, I was thinking about how ridiculous that app was, and then I was thinking to myself, how can I propagate that for the Veterans Project?
yeah. And I'm thinking, how do I propagate that for Vet TV? Well, here's what I'm seeing. These kids have a desire to express themselves. That's all they're doing. It's a desire to express themselves. And when you join the U.S. military, the contract that you sign says you do not have the ability to express yourself like you would if you were not here. You are sacrificing some self-expression. Not all, but some.
Yeah, definitely.
So if we can give these people some outlet to express themselves, because if you think about, like, you guys had do gong shows in the Army, you know, where like you guys have like mess nights, unit nights, balls, and there's some element of theater to it.
Yes.
Like the reading of the scrolls and stuff. Our Marine mess nights are some of the funniest times in the world, but it's all theater.
Right.
And then when you do the gong at the end of boot camp, all the kids, the guys who are just about to graduate and girls, they make fun of the drill instructors in theater. It's a part of our culture already. The arts is there. It's just suppressed a little bit. It only comes out at the appropriate times, but there's a desire to express yourself in the military. If we could give them a more healthy outlet that is acceptable, and then also give the veterans an ability to express themselves, and give tens of thousands of veterans and military people a platform with which to express themselves, that's Vet TV free. And so now it's constant content. It's coming from the users, coming from these people who, obviously, if they're expressing it, they want it. So there's others who want it. And now that's the Vet TV free app, which is just military entertainment. It's not high-quality television and film. It's not high-quality scripted. Some of it could be scripted if you're planning something in the barracks or whatever, like Terminal Boots used to do. There is a lot of danger there with getting in trouble, but there's something there. And it all comes down to our natural desire to express ourselves and create art and entertainment. And if we can give people a platform to do that, we've done another good thing for them. Because a lot of what I see as a problem in the veteran community, a lot of the anger that guys have, you know, when a guy is a fucking asshole to his girlfriend, it's usually because he's feeling insecure, right? He sees, I used to feel it all the fucking time. I see my girlfriend talk to this. If I saw my girlfriend go talk to Matt Best, and if I saw her clearly like be attracted to him, if I saw that, I'm going to get insecure. And you know what I would do when I was younger? I'd go be a fucking asshole to her.
Yeah.
How many guys do that?
And all that does is create a culture of discomfort. And then to where that girl's gone, 2 days later, because there's no trust.
But could he express that emotion better? It all comes down to the ability to communicate what you're thinking and how you're feeling, which is expression. And guys don't do that because it contradicts the alpha male nature of things.
Instead of being comfortable and stating like, hey, that kind of made me uncomfortable a little earlier, and I don't know what it was about that. I know it's probably a silly insecurity. Yeah, but hearing like even myself say that is like, that would never happen.
Yeah.
No alpha.
Well, guys could do it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But you know what's funny though is that I've seen it with Rudy. And I've seen it with myself, but I remember seeing comments on there. Guys just, I totally let Rudy f my girlfriend. Like they're acknowledging that their girlfriend would probably be attracted to him. And there's no fighting it. And there's no reason in trying to ignore that fact of reality. Look at his fucking body. For God,
he is
you can't.
Yes.
And his face, for God,
he is a Greek
can't not
god.
acknowledge it.
Yes, in body form.
So I'm seeing, like, culturally, I think some guys are getting better about this. And I think if we can just be more open about this kind of stuff.
It's more attractive, too, when a guy's like that. Like, even for...
Because it shows security.
Yeah, it's like, cool, man. Like, I get it. You are hot.
Like if a guy saw his girl go talk to some really good-looking dude and felt a little insecure, if he would just go to his girl and be like, hey, I know you probably thought that guy was super hot. You want to just tell me that you're not going to go fuck him? And then at least give her an opportunity to be like, babe, I love you. I'm not going to go do anything with him. Yeah, he's
beautiful, but...
Because then what you're doing is you're just giving your girlfriend the opportunity to say, yeah, so what? I see you looking at hot chicks all the time. Yeah. You're looking at magazines. You're looking at porn. You're looking at chicks when we're eating fucking dinner walk by. Like, yeah, I thought it, but I'm not going to do anything that at least encourages that conversation.
Right, yeah.
You have that conversation immediately. Everything's better.
It's awesome.
And you don't need to be a asshole to your girl.
Or then she, grabs his hand and walks off with him into the sunset, and then you're there by yourself.
Or you would
at least it's honest. Yeah, you give the opportunity to be a dirtbag. Well, I didn't need to be with her anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Donny, wanted to thank you for coming on the Veterans Project podcast, man. It's awesome to have you here. And, one of the things that I wanted to say to close things out, you might be searching for that place where you're inspiring and creating inspiration in what you do, but this is always a process and a path, man. So I want to encourage you to enjoy those little wins, even though it's really hard, in what you're doing. I mean, I see this board and I see organized madness, going on. You've got 6 weeks to put out another show, 6 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 weeks, and the consistent passionate pursuit of what you're doing, but it's all beautiful because you're chasing your passion. Yeah. You're getting an opportunity to live out your dream. And so many guys already see you. I mean, I get messages all the time. I got a message here when I even showed that little clip, you like walking in. It's like, oh, you're doing the podcast with Donny. Yeah! And like seeing that is an inspiration to get those guys to pull that gun out of their mouth when they're in that hard place, man. Like you saw it early in your career of like, dude, I would have killed myself already if I hadn't read your book. Yeah. Things like that. That's one person you can save.
Yeah, it means a lot.
It's already mission accomplished in your life, man. Like your passionate pursuit. I know you want to save way more. And like that's what this is built on. It's all predicated upon that. You're creating a sense of community. But I just wanted to say, man, like I see your work no matter how I view a show, in the humor or whatever, I see it as consistently helping. So for me, that's a huge goal. That's why I wanted to have you on and why I wanted to make you a part of the project is because I believe in what you're doing. I believe in even if somebody doesn't like a certain skit or whatever, it doesn't matter. You're building community. You're creating a culture where we can openly laugh, where we can come back to each other and enjoy that tribe and feel more comfortable and non-isolated. Isolation is the killer. So I just wanted to thank you for doing this in a way that's open and honest and bringing that culture back and bringing art to light, man, because a lot of us are uncomfortable with the art part. I mean, me, like, guys in my unit would call me the unicorn, because, like, I was always just doing, like, hey, bro, hey, put your Kevlar on this way and let me get this angle right here. Or, hey, get up on the corner of that building and it'll make us look like we're in a firefight and you're out. We're gonna, oh, dude, that looked just savage. We were in Solder City in this shot. It's like, no, you were in the corner of Biop on, like, Striker or something. But, like, having that, I do not back up Stolen Valor. That's not good. Guys, don't do that. But the Stolen Valor guys right now are listening to this are like, Kolzak, we're coming for you next, bro. Like for me though, what you're doing is beautiful and it's already created something that guys are looking up to and that process. And I know for you it's like, yeah, but I haven't gotten there yet. There is no getting there. You're consistently working you're consistently on the path. Yeah. So I want to thank you for where you're at right now, man. In pursuing that. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. So this has been the Veterans Project Podcast, episode Donny O'Malley. And I just want to remind everybody to follow Vet TV, subscribe.
Oh, yeah. Can I please say?
Dude, plug it.
Okay, check it out.
Plug it.
Vet TV now has 14 different television shows.
Wow.
Hitting up not all the MOSs, but a lot of MOSs in all the branches. Mm-hmm. Okay, we got sketch comedy. We have shows that look just like The Office.
Yeah.
So some of our shows.
What was that called again? I saw it just recently. Chop.
It's about an Army admin shop, an Army S1
shop. Love it.
And it's fucking brilliant. It's done by Braden Smith and Greg Kelly.
Okay.
And then Checkpoint Charlie, Army MPs, Greg Kelly, Jack Mandeville, Rich High, Nathan Ing. Jack, Rich, and Greg wrote that thing, and that's intended to be for everyone who's ever been an Army MP. And then we got a Grunt's Life for all of the grunts who need that really sick shit.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that a lot.
Then we got Recruiters for everyone who's ever been a recruiter. It shows the miserable struggles recruiters go through, but it's got some really dark humor in there. And I could go on and on. Team BAMF, another infantry show, infantry fire team, and The Bet, which is about a supply unit, but it's really about manipulation in the military. It's about how terribly men and women manipulate each other. And
supply is super manipulative too. So
sure.
Sense, yeah.
And and it's an issue that we want to bring up. We write honestly, but of course we make a complete joke out of everything. And so we have something for everyone. All that we ask is you just try it once. You can, at this point, you could probably get through everything in a month if you didn't have a job. If you just want to sit around and watch, yeah, because we have a lot of shit now.
Yeah.
But at the very least, just watch the first episode of everything and subscribe once, just $5 once. And if you don't like it, then bail. Okay?
Yeah.
But you're losing $5. And on the flip side, if you appreciate it, we're giving you something that no one else in the world is giving you. Matt and JT and all those guys, I desperately want them to be part owners of this because they're making entertainment for the military community, right? They're doing it. You look at their videos and their music. Yeah. It's for us.
It's awesome.
Right? But they're running another business. They don't have the time to rip their fucking hair out for 12 hours a day for a 3-month writing process to nail down an ensemble cast for a show that recreates a BAS, a Greenside BAS. They don't have the time to do that. So we're the only ones doing it. And what we really want is for people to just give it a shot. It's just $5, and if you don't like it, bail. But there's nothing that pains me more than seeing all of the brutal work that has gone into this and the money, $100,000 for a fucking 6-episode show that goes into this stuff, and then people don't even see it. That sucks the most. People unsubscribing, that hurts enough, right? That sucks.
Yeah.
But it's like we're learning. That means we got to be better.
Yeah.
If you never see it, that hurts.
Yeah.
Just give it a shot.
Give it a shot, people.
And then if you want to bail, tell us why. Because like everything we've been talking about, you got to do, fail, learn. We're not going to make something better unless you tell us what needs to be better.
That's the truth, yeah.
So like I think we're the only people out there on social media who, when you write something in the comments, this sucks, this is trash, we say, we're sorry to let you down, tell us how to do better. We're the only people I've ever seen do that.
That's awesome. That's good social media feedback, though, for sure.
Yeah. And you know what's great, too, is that all the people who are trying to just troll, I think their brains short circuit when they see our response. They're like, wait, what? They don't know how to respond.
Yeah.
Like, I was just trying to piss them off. And they're actually genuinely
I've never actually watched the show.
So anyways, that was my plug. Thank you for letting me speak.
Of course, man. Absolutely. Well, Donny, great having you on again. Thank you so much, brother. And look forward to watching Vet TV grow and Irreverent Warriors grow and just you grow in your legacy, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
And please remember, people, our legacies are the mission.
This has been the Veterans Project Podcast with our founder, Tim Kay. Check us out at www.thevetsproject.com, on Instagram at The Veterans Project, Facebook, The Veterans Project, and Twitter at @project_veteran. Thanks for listening, and don't forget, our legacies are the mission.